Welcome to the Aerospace Working Group annual update for 2026. I'm going to be presenting today. I'm Matt Weber, and Dr. Martin Hall is my co-lead on this working group. Together, we lead various aspects, and today we're going to share some of the progress this past year and some of our ideas looking forward. I'm a associate tech fellow at the Boeing Company. Been with Boeing now about almost 3 years, and my focus is purely Linux, embedded, and safety relevance and stuff like that. I have about 15 years in the embedded industry, doing commercial and military type things, and I think it's a really interesting opportunity we have in this group, and hopefully you'll see that today. So the Aerospace Group is chartered to help define for civil aviation, and now also we spent a lot of the year on space topics. We're trying to define those technical aspects and process and practice aspects that make things unique for our industry. We're doing that through capturing of what are our products, what are our practices, how do they relate to other industries, as well as this year, we did some stuff related to demonstrating examples as well. So if you do have interest in this group, that QR code will get you to our landing page where you can sort of hit a number of different resources. But this is our primary focus, and our general calls hit on this sort of stuff every month. So looking at some metrics from this last year, it was a really good year. We were stable on meeting attendance. The meeting count is a little adjusted because we had the combination of the space grade Linux SIG plus aerospace occurring, but in general, it's a good progression. There's contribution, there's topics in both calls, as you'll see in the space grade Linux call with Ramon, and our meeting attendance was relatively stable as well. One key thing here is that we did add a weekly call. We have a group now that's meeting every Friday morning, a US morning, and there's about 4.5 of us attending. And this group is focused on taking the concepts of the use cases and how do we demonstrate those in like a reference example. And because of that work, you'll see that our contributor commits significantly went up this year. And that's code examples, system examples, documentation, in addition to just our normal meeting minutes and other content in that repo. So that was super encouraging. The other thing that I think was really neat was looking at our contributors. This is an extremely diverse set of people. We have competitors, we have vendors of various focuses, we have government agencies, we have universities, and the conversation that brings is very encouraging. And a subset of that group got together, and I do want to special thanks to those that worked on papers, industry papers and demos this year. That was really interesting, and I felt that we did move some topics forward. So thanks again to everyone and their time. I know some people get paid to do this, some people are volunteering, so thank you. For achievements this year, our group, Martin and I guess, presented topics for the group at the Munich workshop. I presented on looking at other industry safety levels versus civil aerospace. I give a little bit of an overview about how does civil aerospace cert work? What do the categories mean? What sort of products in planes today that are flying fall into which categories? Martin presented the idea of, let's do some industry papers. Where do we think people have ideas and traction on topics? And I think we have at least the ones listed in this screenshot, but those ideas brought together a smaller team, and they restarted the monthly paper call. And something to share in a future slide, that call put together some really good content, and they hit some good milestones in the last month. Another thing that earlier in the year, NXP presented on what they're doing in robotics. And if I remember right, this was sort of like drone autonomy type stuff. It was interesting, and you'll find that in our meeting minutes. I think it was in March and April timeframe last year. And then towards the end of 25, we collaborated with Philip and the Systems Working Group to talk about the reference system architectures and the software-defined vehicle or SODEV work. This year, this work is sort of ramping up where SODEV has a like a Zen Zephyr Linux type of a reference architecture. In the talk he gave yesterday, it went into a lot more detail on that. But we wanted to get people exposed in the aerospace group because if you looked at like mixed functions or mixed criticality in an aerospace system, the same concepts and like deployment examples that SODEV and the systems working group are looking at apply there. So merging topic, just sort of getting it out there this year, which was good. Another big focus this year was completing our first full demo. So the cabin lights use case was a lot of work in 2024, capturing the basics of it's a switch and a light. And it's funny how long, and how much time you can spend talking about a switch and a light and what design wise, does it take to literally flip a light on and off? Um, how do you run it? In what environment? What aspects are you testing of it? And we added a neat thing here. Yvonne works at NASA, put together a co-pilot example of here's how you would put a harness around this basic light switching to make sure it does what the requirements are spec to say. So the picture in the upper right here is where we ended up completing that demo. Super basic, but it demonstrates a concept on a minimal system that we can then take and apply and study and benchmark as we make more immersive demos, or we break that demo up and look at parts of it, and measure and observe things. So that completed this year. Something we're actually just tying off is the cabin lights demo with NASA Core Flight or CFS, and we took the same demo we did up above here, and we put it in an environment with CFS. Uses their software bus to communicate. It involved telemetry type monitoring and stuff with Copilot, and this was neat because it uses tools like Ogma from NASA that auto generates the actual monitor code, but it also generates the framework for like the switch application and the definition of the message pieces. So there's some Haskell, some C, some Python testing, all running on top of emulation. So that one's still being documented, but functionally it came together at the end of last year. So looking back at sort of the other aspect of this group where we're focused on why an aerospace or space product, aren't they just embedded, right? Well, they are embedded, but there's distinguishing things about them. And how do we look at that beyond writing use cases? So we studied a little bit about the carrier grade example, and we looked at how that was done, how vendors used it, and then sort of tested to show they were compliant and how it helped standardize practice. And where we ended up as a starting point for this group was let's make a template that just captures these aspects of what a product has, from a systems aspect, say, that make it unique, and maybe unique for space or unique for aerospace. So we can talk about them, and compare things. So we put together the template on the right here with ideas around the different pieces of how you would categorize and frame up a product. And then we looked at defining example products for that. And then we organized them by like safety standard and level. So for civil aviation, we have examples from A through D of products, and we filled out the best we could with the data that this template asks for. So now we can go and say, well, what's a level Bravo product? What sort of things make that unique? How would an OS run underneath that product? So you can ask that sort of stuff and study. You'll see in the next slide about ideas for this year, we're actually looking at, well, we should capture the same thing for like NASA class products because class products don't have maybe the human element, but they definitely have like extreme reliability, redundancy aspects. So different things drive higher levels, and it'd be neat to observe. Other thing we focused was a little bit back end stuff this year. We got the project cleaned up, so their contribution guidance and licensing is all very clear and out there in the repository. And we also matured some of the automation. So those demos that we're doing, those run fully through build, test, and test reporting, all in emulation, are emulated examples of like a minimal system doing those demos is instrumented, and the test results come through. And then that whole thing runs on top of a Docker sandboxed environment. So when people go to do our demo, they're running in the same thing that our CI is using to do the validation. So pretty stable. We, I think, got closer to a stabilized environment, but that was cool to get to because then it removes those little things, right? The distractions and the it used to build. These last two, license check, we went through, cleaned everything up. The repo is fully good now. All of our work would, as it goes through pull requests, is scrubbed and fails if it doesn't comply. And linting is a work in progress. That's actually an area, if people are interested in contributing, that's a low barrier of entry. We have a lot of stuff that throws warnings in our demo material and our doc material. So some ideas for this next year. The QR code there will drop you right into a a discussion idea space in our GitHub that has these items listed. And you can go in and thumbs up to vote on them or add your comment right there. I think we want to understand if these things have value to you. And I pulled the ideas out of our monthly calls and our weekly calls. We sort of track this standing topics or maybe next steps type things. And that's what drove this list. So some of this stuff I hinted at already is like, let's go capture, those profiles of products so we have these things to compare and talk against. From a reference system, we had some people interested in doing like the extreme basic no demo. So take the demo that we did with the lights example, but take the lights example off and just study the base system. And that's an area where I'm trying to stitch together. If we do look at that, that crosses multiple ELISA teams that have done different studies and investigations. So that could be interesting between the working groups. Another big one for us was space grade Linux, going from a special interest group to forming their own community and working group. I think there's definitely overlaps between the way we look at system concepts and capabilities that overlap between aerospace and what space grade's focused on, as well as like the survey papers and industry papers. There's definitely overlap there. So continue to look at that. And ELISA as a whole has some goals around that too that we're fleshing out. And this last one is no longer we'd like to submit. The team in the last 2 weeks submitted the first paper to Digital Avionics Systems Conference. So super awesome to see the smaller group that did this come together, and they're motivated writing, and I hope we get good feedback that it goes to actually becoming a talk. So this is my last slide. I do want to extend the opportunity for those that if you want to join us, our monthly calls are consistently on Thursdays at the same time. And right now, the first week of the month, we take off. There's no topic. The second is our general aerospace call. The third is space grade Linux. And the fourth is where those industry papers are being worked. And the industry call, I do want to stress, it is a working call. And Martin runs that with that group. And you'll get actions. You'll be asked to write and contribute and work if you go to that call. So, but it's good. That's how you get your name on paper. So, and then the Friday call is our reference demo call where we're looking at how to move the tangible examples forward. That definitely, they drive general topics, they drive industry papers type stuff. So invites are all out there. The QR code and the link at the bottom there will get you to where you can sign up. And if there is anything that you want to reach out to myself or Martin, hit Discord. We have a channel for aerospace, mailing list, as well as GitHub has all our stuff. So it has all our meeting minutes. It has the demonstration concepts, prior presentations, and documents, those profiles of products and stuff are all out there. So um, yeah. So I do want to say again, it's been a privilege to work with everyone that contributed. The group that we have showing up to this working group is top notch and wants to try to do better in this space. So I can only hope in 2026 that it's going to be an awesome year. 25 was great, but it's really moving forward at a good pace with good participation. So thanks again.
I guess this leaves some time for questions. One question I have is like, what happens if we have a fifth Thursday on a month?
We learned that Zoom has challenges with scheduling that. But that was something we cleaned up. It was good to get the feedback because you don't always get scheduling feedback, and um, we got feedback that if we have one slot, at least then that stays consistently open across the board. So
And I guess you typically meet Thursdays, US morning, European afternoon,
yeah, I
Asia very nightly.
want to point out this industry call. There has been some discussion about it might make sense to actually make that a special interest group. It's something Martin and I are looking at this year, and depending on how the group continues, that might make sense to sort of split out. So it's very specific and dedicated. Um, so then they have their own mailing list, and just that consistent. It might be better to drive those forward. So we'll see where that goes, what momentum's there, and so.
All right. Yeah, if anyone has a question, you can write it in the chat, or you can also raise your hand, and then we'll give you the right to also switch on your microphone. Okay.
Matt, I actually have a question.
Sure.
Since May, our marketing person is also here, we would love to maybe highlight a bit more of the completed use case, the maybe it's for a blog post
Sure.
or the demo. I saw some of the visuals that you included on the slides. Is there a video that you maybe recorded in one of the meetings? I can't recall. It'd be really awesome to highlight that as a technical blog post to publish on the ELISA website.
No, that'd be great. I think Martin and I have been talking about like documentation landing README updates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'd probably try to work through that, and then we could, as part of that, put together the work with you guys, put together the blog post and tie it together. So,
All right. We'll
yeah,
keep that on our list for this year.
cool.
And yeah, thank
Great.
you.
Sounds
Then I
good.
guess if there are no more questions, we stop the recording and hand over to